Hello, everybody. I'd just like to call this meeting to order at 4:01 p.m. Tonight, as we start this board meeting, I would like to list our norms and expectations for the outline of this meeting. We will respect everyone and use proper decorum. The Board of Trustees has come prepared and will be present. We will have one conversation at a time and we will engage and start on time. When it comes to the comment period, we will ask the gallery to please select one person to speak from your group. Each person will receive 5 minutes to speak, and I will ask my vice chair to keep time. Comments only pertaining to tonight's agenda, please. The trustees will not comment at this time to move the process along smoothly, and if we require you to come back, we will reach out to you and meet at another time. Let's all remember that we are here for our students tonight. So next I will do the acknowledgement of the traditional territories. So we do acknowledge that we are here today on the land of the Lheidli First Nations people. The Lheidli people are the traditional owners of this land and are part of the oldest surviving continuous cultures in the world. We also recognize School District 57 land touches the Simpcw Nation in McBride and Valemont. The Simpcw people are a culturally proud community, thriving on healthy, holistic lifestyles based upon respect, responsibility, and continuous participation in growth and education. We also recognize the McLeod Lake Indian Band in McLeod Lake. This is also another territory that graces School District 57's borders. McLeod Lake are the part of the Second A group, or People of the Rocks, and they pride themselves on making sure that the footprints they leave behind are the ones their children will be proud to walk in. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Just a second here. Just a second. No.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, to make a recommendation that the board waive policy 7, board operations clause 3.15, development of regular public meeting agenda, and 5.2.1 in public remarks, and that the board adds the public remarks related to the board meeting to proceed item 4, school district news on tonight's regular public meeting agenda.
Would we like to have a discussion on that?
Do you want me to read the rationale?
Sure, yes, please.
So the rationale or the background is that in board operations policy 7, there is order for development of the regular public meeting agenda, and currently public remarks related to the board meeting are after the adjournment of the meeting. This recommendation will move this to between the approval of tonight's agenda and school district news. For number 5.2.1, it talks about public remarks after the end of the meeting, and you can see in tonight's agenda there is a comment regarding public remarks, and it says the same thing as is in the rationale. It says there shall be public remarks period of up to 30 minutes following the adjournment, and this motion is moving it to before school district news of every regularly scheduled public board meeting to provide an opportunity for members of the public and rights holder and stakeholder groups to make comments to the board. The public remarks shall be relevant to items on the evening's approved regular public agenda, and the board will listen respectfully to comments, however, may not respond to questions during this time. Number 3, the board will be undertaking a review of policy 7, board operations, and will consider any revisions in alignment with policy 10, policy and policy development.
Thank you, Darlene. Open the floor now for some discussion. Trustees? Hearing none, we ready to vote to move comments to the beginning? Yes? Okay, all in favor? And that is unanimous. Perfect.
So we'll need to put a list for people to sign up.
So there'll be a list over at the table over there if there's any comments that would like to be made. Your name needs to be on the sheet.
You could call PGPTA if you.
So do we have any partner groups tonight that would like to speak? Zero? And then we have Laura from TPAC.
We were just having technical difficulties with the YouTube link. Can we just pause for a moment?
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, that's okay.
Everybody decide that. Thank you.
No.
We're good. Yeah.
Thank you. Members of the board, colleagues, and members of the public, the Prince George District Teachers Union has deep concerns regarding the conduct of the December 13th meeting of the school board. I trust that the members of the board have had an opportunity to review the letter that I sent to you on January 12th. I also sent a letter of concern to the minister. For those in the room, the purpose of my letters was to remind our trustees that as guardians of the Public Education Trust, they are to ensure that all students feel that they are safe and belong in our schools, both physically and emotionally. Inclusiveness is fundamentally important to public education. I want to thank you for, first off, discontinuing the Christian prayer at the beginning of the board meeting. I noticed, obviously, that I didn't have one. As that segregated students and staff who may hold other religious views, who may be healing from centuries of oppressive colonialism, or who may just feel othered and no longer belonging in a system that should be open to all young people by law. So I really thank you for making that change. Secondly, though, a member of the public was thanked and praised for stating a series of unsubstantiated attacks on public education, the work of my members, and the lawful gender identity and equity curriculum that allows our students to feel belonging at school, no matter how they identify or who they are as people. While members of the public may want to return to some more regressive education practices of previous centuries, as trustees, you're required to go beyond that. You're here to serve the district at the best of your ability, irrespective of your own beliefs. You're here to be respectful, sensitive, and responsive to the diversity and rights of others, even if you disagree. This is your own policy, number 4, that I'm quoting. There are no exceptions in human rights. You are to also, in your own policy, adhere to BC Human Rights Code and be anti-discriminatory in the completion of your responsibilities. So am I. And so is every employee of the district, many of whom are here tonight. I urge you to reflect on this as a commitment as a trustee. Reflect if you are prepared to do the hard work. Please reflect if you can set aside your personal beliefs that may be in conflict. Please reflect that you're not here to entertain any misguided, perhaps conspiracy thinking that sometimes emerges in our part of the province. You're here to support all students and not any politics that are associated with organizations that are far south of us. So I call upon you to do the following. I call upon you to defend human rights for all students and employees. I call on you to protect your employees from any slanderous commentary, false accusation, and discrimination. I call on you that instead of praising and thanking members of the public who attack your students and staff, I call upon you to ask them to leave. I call upon you to use the voice that you have been given by the people of this city democratically. Please do not sit silent on these issues. I ask nothing more of you than I am fully committed and willing to do every day as president of the association, as a father, and as a person. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move forward, I did just check with my superintendent, and I will be addressing your comment on the Christian prayer. This was not a Christian prayer. This was actually written by the elders of the McLeod Lake Indian Band, and I was blessed with it and asked to say it at a meeting. So before you start commenting in things and letters addressing certain prayers towards certain religions, please make sure that your facts are correct. You're going to move?
Chairman, respond.
Not at this time. We will move forward, but it is something that you need to understand because it isn't a Christian prayer.
I find that anti-democratic.
And you are entitled to believe what you would like to believe. I'm going to ask Laura from DPAC to come up, please, and speak.
Thank you, Chair Weber. From the DPAC, Hadi, we're grateful to be here on the lands of the Lheidli T'enneh people, as well as McLeod Lake Indian Band of the Simpcw First Nation. Thank you for allowing us to address the board. We appreciate the many feedback opportunities offered from School District 57 to DPAC and parents generally, and recognize that many parents have limited time and awareness to engage actively beyond the school level day to day. Families are all so busy, and we have so many wonderful experts on staff that prepare thoughtful programs and policy to respond to the never-ending demands of public education for all students and families in our communities. There is so much information on public education that it is like drinking water from a fire hose when the average family needs to engage beyond typical day-to-day school interactions to figure out a situation. I can sign a field trip form with my eyes closed, but reading and accessing policy and staying up to date on heavier topics is a mission even for parents that are consistently engaged with PAC and DPAC. Most parents have much bigger things on their minds than the way the school and the school district operate. That does not mean they don't care. Just they have enough trust in the system to not worry about it. It also means that most do not run to social media to express their opinion, no matter the topic, because most parents are not that fired up, nor have time to argue with those that do, to have the time and attention for those public forums. Certainly, there are people in our community that get fired up on social media, but they are typically not representative of a typical family. Families generally understand that the school district is a robust organization in our region that delivers education across the entire land and a broad range of services through the dedicated work of the departments working cohesively. As such, we have observed them taking on multiple critical projects at the same time. Special advisors work, implementing the strategic plan and framework for enhancing student learning, pandemic response, and the regular operation of the business of the school district. There's always something. But as already mentioned, School District 57 has a robust staff with relevant expertise that handles and moves these projects forward under the direction of the superintendent and the board of trustees. The Prince George School District was amalgamated with other communities in the 70s, and the renaming process has never been completed. It has been consistent governance for longer than most parents of school-age children have been alive under that same umbrella of Prince George. The logo is unchanged and almost as long as the district has been in its current form. In fact, the classic quote could be updated to include School District 57's name and logo, that the only things certain in life are death and taxes, but even the Canada Revenue Agency has been renamed and rebranded from time to time to reflect their updated mission. And yet, School District 57 represents an entire region with diverse communities over an area of approximately 50,000 square kilometers, and it's called the Prince George School District. That is not reflective of this region or the mission of education to center the organization on a single urban area. We can do better, and the fact that this has gone unchanged for about 5 decades indicates that it's going to be a complicated undertaking. It will be impossible to fully capture our entire school district in a singular updated name, but there is engagement and representation in the process, and we owe it to our communities to attempt this project. This item has been in the budget and repeatedly put off for years. There is history of board interest in doing this work, and there is recent history of this type of engagement not going well. But this is not the Prince George School District. That excludes people who need to feel included and gain a sense of belonging in classrooms and school communities. DPAC would like the board to take on renaming in the next fiscal year to demonstrate the organizational maturity and commitment to the whole region in which it operates. This will put our best foot forward to demonstrate to the outside world that we are changing as much as those on the inside already know that we are changing. Along with this, updating the logo is one element and should be considered in the same way, that a stick person student hunched at a desk in a box puts a very old-fashioned impression out there as an identity for an educational organization in the 21st century. It's dated to around the time when Canada repatriated the Constitution from Great Britain. Those were the good old days, right? Everyone loved the 80s. We trust our schools to come up with their identities. They have all sorts of representative logos. I can't find my stick that would actually show this, but I have a variety from around the region. They have dynamic, interesting, and action-oriented logos that represent their school communities. And then we've got this. So, you know, there's a theme there that I think could be improved on. But we trust our schools to come up with their identities with representative logos that are proudly emblazoned on the school walls, spirit wear, team uniforms, banners, planners, and eventually graduation certificates. As you can see, there is a wide variety of logos that they have adopted with care and consideration for their communities. They are fierce, proud, heroic, action-oriented, and full of life. Just about the exact opposite of the logo for our umbrella organization that leads and oversees the dynamic work being done in schools. Communication and presentation of our school district is something that the community does care about, and we understand that students care about it as well. I had the pleasure of attending an elementary PAC meeting, and they had just received an order of spirit wear with their logo and brand. The kids feel excited, the parents are excited, the staff are excited. They are proud. They feel like they belong to a larger community at their school. The PAC will even be opening up another order because they've had multiple of their school community members expressing that they also want in on that team spirit. I cannot think of a single place that the current school district logo is displayed beyond what is absolutely necessary. It represents an old way of doing things that does not represent the diversity of our communities or the collaborative approach to education that School District 57 staff bring to their work. This Board of Trustees can do better and must bring a broader focus to their work to overcome the perception that Prince George School District 57 is stuck in the past and not somewhere to work and learn that is worthy of pride and attention to detail. A reflective name and logo will lift our educational communities up with pride and belonging to achieve their best by bringing out the best in students. The process of consultation can be improved with respect and considering feedback so we can do the project well. Parents are standing by to participate and help with this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. We'll move on next to our school district news.
Thank you. I just thought that you might like to know who is elected to replace Cheryl Warrington on the BCPC Board of Directors. And it's Angie Ainsley from, pardon me? Delaney, I'm sorry, Delaney, excuse me. And she is our northern rep now and will be sitting as our representative from the north on BCPC Board of Directors. Thanks.
Thank you, Betty. Next, we'll move on to the minutes of the previous meetings. 5.1, regular public meeting of December 13th, page 1. And 5.2, the record of minutes in the special in-camera meeting December 12th at 4 p.m. and 4:15, and regular in-camera December 12th, page 7. Can I just have a motion to accept? Oh, just a second, Jillian.
Motion to accept.
I can seconder. All in favor? Okay, next is the business arising from the minutes. No business? Wonderful. Okay. Any old business? No. Okay. Number 8, the business committee. I'll pass this on to Craig.
Chair, I would like to make a motion regarding the following recommendation, that the report of the business committee meeting held on January the 17th, 2023 be received. Okay, second. Awesome. Just wanted to highlight a few things from this. This is an excellent meeting. There's lots I could go on about, but I'm just going to highlight a few little things. First, the staffing update was really encouraging to hear some of the positive steps that are being taken towards the recruitment of staff. So that's just awesome work. So thank you very much. Also good to hear about our financial update. All schools and departments are currently operating within their approved budget. So that's awesome news. Everyone's doing a wonderful job. So thank you. Also want to say a special thank you about the workshops. We had our first workshop on budget, and I know that, speaking for myself, but I'm sure the other trustees, it was a very informative first workshop, and we're looking forward to more of those. So thank you for that. And a very encouraging news regarding the transportation update, that we have 2 transportation companies now providing school bus services to and from schools for students. So that was an awesome one. So other good things as well, but I want to highlight those ones. And just a reminder, our next business committee meeting will be on February the 14th, 2023, Valentine's Day. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Craig. Next, we'll move on to the education. Oh, sorry. Oh, yes. Do we have any questions for Craig?
I don't think we had a seconder, sorry.
Jillian and Betty. Any questions for Craig? No, okay. All in favor? Yep. And then we'll move on to the education committee. We'll start with the committee report from Betty.
Thank you, Chair. So the recommendation that the report of the Board Education Committee held on January 10th, 2023 be received. Thank you. So the Board Education Committee met on January the 10th, and it was an excellent meeting, but the most exciting thing to come out is a board authorized course, which we will talk about in a moment. So the meeting agenda included dual credit programs, board authorized course, Ministry of Education and Childcare reporting policy, and after school sports and arts initiative. We really put our assistant superintendents on the mat for all of this. They had most of the meeting and presented some just amazing information. So that was the meeting, but I would like to approve that recommendation before I move on to the board authorized course.
All in favor?
So this is sort of the best part of the education committee is board authorized courses that are coming forward for us to review and approve. So the recommendation that Cultural Connections 12 be reapproved as a board authorized course to meet the new graduation requirements.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. background. In September 2023, the graduation requirements will include students having 4 credits with an Indigenous focus. Districts can work with the First Nations to develop courses that will meet this requirement. Any existing BAA course a board authorized authority wishes to put forward as meeting the new Indigenous focus graduation requirement must be resubmitted to the board authority for review and approval. While a co-development process with the local First Nations may not have occurred with these courses, a new updated course form must be completed and signed off by the board authority and then submitted to the ministry, along with formal letters of support from First Nation or nations on whose territories the board authority operates schools. In an existing course, if an existing course is determined to meet the new graduation requirement criteria and a student has taken it prior to the 23-24 school year, it will count towards the student's graduation requirement so long as the course has not undergone changes since the student took the course to obtain board authority reapproval. If an existing course has not gone through the reapproval process with the board authority, it cannot be used to meet this graduation requirement. Just 2 more. The Indigenous Education Leadership Table has provided a letter in support of Cultural Connections 12 as a board authorized course, and Cultural Connections 12 was originally approved as a board authorized course at the January 28th, 2020 regular public meeting. All of the following pages are all connected to the approval of the board authorized course from pages now until 23. So if I won't be reading all of that out, so if you can follow in the board book. So I guess if anyone would like to speak on it.
Thank you, Betty. Any questions? Comments? Oh, Jillian.
There you go. I just want to say that it was really exciting to hear about some of the land-based opportunities there were and whatnot that went along with this course. It was really encouraging to hear about the opportunities that our students would have to display learning in different ways. So great to be able to reapprove this.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, so we'll vote on this now. If there's no other questions? Nope, okay. So all in favor of the board authorized course? And that is unanimous. All right, next is the advisory committee by Jillian and Bob. Who is taking this one?
I can report on it. Okay, a recommendation that the report of the advisory committee meeting held on January 21st, 2023 be received.
Seconder?
Okay, so the advisory committee met on January 24th, 2023, and the meeting's agenda included the following topics. We discussed town hall meetings. The superintendent inquired about topics and dates for town hall meetings to receive feedback from the community. The committee proposed topics on the budget process, communication for student learning, school organization, strategic plan, and a series of other things as well. This was discussed because much of what the board does and the senior staff do is not public facing, and the public doesn't really have very much of a venue to address the board at board meetings. So we're looking at new ways to reach out to the larger community and the public. We also received the Energy and Sustainable Conservation Update for May 22nd, 2022 to December 2022. That was provided by Barry Beppel, and I can tell you that as a trustee, it's just ingenious the money that they're saving the district by greening our schools. We then had a discussion about choice programs. And for those who are unfamiliar with choice programs are schools that offer specific training that students and parents may be interested in. So the Indigenous Assistant Superintendent Pam Spooner provided handouts for the district's 6 choice program schools that provided information on a number of the students attending, percentage of Indigenous students, percentage of students with exceptional needs for each of the choice programs, and advised the district is reviewing each program to inquire if they are still unique from non-choice schools. We then had a transportation update. As you may know, we have changed transportation providers, and it's been a bumpy takeoff, primarily because they've been unable to attract drivers. But the Assistant Superintendent Karpenko provided the committee with the transportation update. And the good news is that those problems are being ironed out. We then called for agenda items for the next meeting. We started this last year, where at the end of the advisory committee, the entire committee has an opportunity to ask for topics for the next meeting. The next advisory committee meeting will be held on February 21st, 2023.
Thank you, Bob. Any questions for Bob? Okay. So we'll vote now. All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, moving on to new business. Is there any new business to discuss? None. And then we'll move on to the district administration reports, and I'll pass this over to our superintendent.
Thank you. Screen share. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'd like to think this is the reason why everyone's here today, to hear my report, and I'll just go along with that. I'm honored to be talking and sharing with you on the unceded ancestral lands of the Lheidli T'enneh in support of students who not only live here, but those who live in the traditional territories of the McLeod Lake Indian Band and the First Nations. Today, I'm going to provide a little bit of a report regarding the strategic plan review process that we have engaged in and continue to do so. I'm going to talk a little bit about the anti-racism action plan that's come from the Ministry of Education, and just introduce some of the beginning of the work we're doing in regards to communicating student learning, the K-12 student reporting policy that has come out from the Ministry of Education, and some of the work that we're doing there. So, before I begin, I just want to remind us of who we're talking about. This is information that is available on the public site of the Ministry of Education. If you look at K-12 reporting, you can choose any school district you want, and it will give you this type of information. I find this information quite valuable in that we can look at our enrollment over time and our trends of what's been happening. If you notice, we are actually on an upward trend since 2012, 2013. We had our dip, we went up a little bit, we dipped down. I don't think we have to guess what happened during this period of time. That's our COVID pandemic. But what's been happening since within our school district, and you can see that our enrollment is increasing. I also find this information that they're providing around the socioeconomic of our district, and this includes all of our communities, that of Prince George, Mackenzie, McBride, and Belmont. And you can see population density. In our community, it's 14, approximately 1,300. We are very sparse, spread out district. We have lots of space, lots of land. When you look at it compared to the province is far more condensed. So we do have lots of territory spread out. The percentage of 25 to 64-year-olds with post-secondary credentials. This is interesting information for me. We are a resource-based community. And there was a time when going to post-secondary wasn't really a necessity. Getting grade 12 wasn't a necessity in order to have a really prosperous career. You look at us compared to the province, 63% of lone parent families. So we used to call them single parent families. The language has changed to lone parent. The province is 4.4. School District 57 is 4.9. So about 5% of our families are single parent families. The unemployment rate in our district is 9.3%. And this is based on the 22-23 school year, utilizing some of the census data and some of their predictor data. The province is 6.8. And then you look at the median family income. We're a little bit higher than the provincial average. So I find that just interesting information. It sort of gives us context of who we're talking about when we talk about the people who live within our community. This is important for us as we review our strategic plan. We're currently in the process of reviewing our year 1 and 2 implementation plan for the 5-year strategic plan. You'll remember we only created an implementation or operations plan for 2 years, acknowledging that 5 years is way too long to wait for some of our targets and some of our action. We do this through lots of consultation, lots of engagement. We did a district-wide online engagement where we asked community to tell us where they'd seen the most growth, and that came out in the area of truth and reconciliation. Why do we do this? Why do we engage? And this is from the Ministry of Education's guidelines for strategic planning. Continuous improvement in the education system occurs through a collective approach, which includes the following community members in addition to the ministry and boards of education. Needs to include students, parents, guardians, caregivers, Indigenous rights holders and Indigenous peoples, as well as our education partners. Right now, we have already engaged with staff through an engagement process, our rights holders, stakeholders group through our engagement process. Tomorrow, there will be a session for parents. It is in person or virtual. The in-person event takes place at Bambien starting at 6:30. It is 90 minutes. It is not just a presentation. It is a here's an idea. Here's what. You then have an opportunity to access, so what? So what do I see here? And then we gather ideas. Now what? Where do we go from here? This information is put together as we work on developing our next implementation plan. Next week, we will be engaging with the Indigenous Education Leadership Table and our student group. What have we learned so far? This isn't new information. I have shared our graduation data so far. You can see that School District 57 has seen the highest rates it has ever seen in graduation across the board. The gray shaded area represents the province, and we are encroaching upon those provincial averages. We are moving into that space. But I think the good news here, when we talk about equity, we look at the success of the Indigenous learners and the students with diverse needs, we are making gains. We have seen a difference. When we look at closing the gap for Indigenous and non-Indigenous learners, you can see that we have closed the gap. And the chart over here shows our trends over time as we do that work. We have a less than 20% gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous learners with the 5-year graduation rates. There was a time when that gap was almost 40%, and that was only 10 years ago. In the areas of literacy and numeracy, I'm highlighting the work of Literacy 10 and Numeracy 10. These are very different types of exams. These are the provincial assessments that are required for students to take. And you can see that we have made great gains in both of those assessments over the past few years. Looking at 2 years ago, it was 53% success. It is now 62. The province is at 75, so we have a little bit of work to do in that area. As we look to our numeracy, 2 years ago, it was 24% proficient, meaning fully able to do and extending. These are our 3s and 4s for the educators in the room. It is now up to 36%. Yes, those numbers are low. They're low across the province, and there's inquiry into that assessment being done by the ministry right now. But I think the success here is that 10% increase. This is information that we've been sharing through our strategic engagement process that I'm happy to be able to share, and it's in the area of wellness. And this is a new feature that we're able to extract information from the Student Learning Survey. And these questions here is what the ministry believes gives us information around mental health in our district. This is our grade 4s. And you'll notice there's green means they gave a positive response. Blue is neutral, where the kids are like, yeah, I think so, a little bit. Red is a hard no or a hard yes, being a negative response. And yellow is I don't know. There's a couple areas that I just want to draw everybody's attention to. One being this one up here. How many adults do you think care about you in our school? We have a large group of kids who say, I don't know. And that's something for us to think about. But what's really standing out here for us is this large chunk of red for our grade 4s. And I don't think it's a surprise for us to see that the question is, how many times a week do you wake up tired? We think our kids are tired, and this data was confirmed by our MDI data that we collected 2 years ago. When we look to our grade 7s around mental health, again, there's a couple red that stands out to me when I look at this. First one being, does school make you feel stressed or anxious? These are our grade 7s. Lots of grade 7s feel stressed or anxious. It's the time where they're thinking about their transition, but they're telling us something. And then the next chunk of red, how often do you usually get a good night's sleep? Again, negative responses. We have tired kids in our classrooms. And when we go to our grade 10s, we have 3 areas that really stand out, these questions. First one being, does school make you feel stressed or anxious? You see this large chunk of red. I said I wasn't going to look to the green, but I can't help it when only 9% of our kids say no. Then we move down to, I'm satisfied that in school I learned how to express emotions and deal with those emotions. It's cut off there, I apologize for that. So we talk about kids needing to learn how to deal with their mental health, how to get supports and understand. And this is work that our districts are tackling right now through our mental health literacy teams that we have going in our schools. And then the last big chunk of red, at school, I'm learning how to care for my mental health. And I don't think for the educators in the room, this comes as a surprise. This is what we know. We've had a hunch. The kids have now told us. So part of our work through our engagement process is to look at this data and how do we adjust our strategies over the next 2 years to address what we've learned. I also want to share with you our grade 11 to grade 12 our transition data. When we created the initial operation plan, our baseline data told us that our grade 11s were not continuing on into grade 12. We were losing grade 11s. We thought it was grade 10. It wasn't. It was our grade 11s transitioning on to grade 12. So if you look 2 years ago, only 83% of our kids went on, 17% did not. That now, as of last year, 11 to 12, and I don't have this year's 11 to 12. As soon as I have it, I will share, is up to 94%. But what's even more positive and interesting is that the Indigenous learners went from 73% to 93%. And as we drill down and disaggregate that data out even more, students with diverse abilities, 2 years ago, 60% transitioned from 11 till 12. When I speak of diverse abilities, we used to call that students with special needs. And we now use the terminology diverse abilities and disabilities. It's now up to 90%. And then finally, a group of students who we have deep care for and concern are our children and youth in care. 2 years ago, 71%. It was better in 2021, and it's 83%. It's still improved. But as you look at some of these numbers, you can see some alarming numbers. In 2017-18, students with special needs, diverse abilities, 48% transition to grade 12. So that just asks more questions. So what? We need to explore what's changed and how do we do more of that. And although it's an improvement, when I look at this number, I still know that there's 60 kids who didn't finish. Where are those 60 kids? Are they still in our system? Have they left the province? Or did they just give up? The next topic I'm going to share with you is the work that we're beginning with the Anti-Racism Action Plan. The Ministry of Education announced in Kamloops School District a new action plan to address K-12 anti-racism. This is something that's been in the works for several years now, and we've seen multiple iterations of it. And I'm happy that we finally have the document and something that we can move forward. The vision statement from the province is that BC students achieve their full potential in an educational environment that is equitable, free of racism, systematic barriers, and where all students, staff, and families feel welcome, safe, respected, and valued. So what we've done here is we have taken the pillars of that anti-racism plan and we've started putting actions in for School District 57. This is the bare bones. The very first thing that needs to happen is here. Much like our strategic plan, the importance of engagement and hearing community voices, we need to work with the Indigenous Education Leadership Table and community to develop the goals to address racism in our strategic plan. So this ties into that work. And there's much more on this that I'd like to just draw your attention to. In terms of removing barriers, we need to spend some time identifying those barriers. Where are they? We can't remove them if we don't know where they exist. In terms of raising awareness, we need to go back and utilize that amazing resource that was developed locally in School District 57 by our DSAC, Raising the Bar. Lots of hype about it last year, but where is it now? Is it in our classrooms? Are we using it? It's there for us. In terms of collaborative change, we need to annually review our policies, continue our work with immigration and multicultural society, continue with our restorative practices, but create an EDIB team for the district: equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. In terms of capacity building, our annual training through policy 23 is required in our anti-racism, anti-discrimination, and cultural safety policy. There's annual training required. The Ministry of Education is working on supporting a training program, as well as the Office of the Human Rights Commissioner is doing that as well. So we will have two resources. And we need to continue to refine our hiring practices. Talks a lot in this document about ensuring our students see themselves represented. And then lastly, in terms of school, we are working towards creating and developing, and this is coming out after spring break, each school will have an EDIB team. We're going to annually review our processes and continue the diversity audits of our resources. And finally, the last little bit is around communicating student learning. Beginning in 2023, report cards will have a different look with the change in the information provided to parents. This is a process that we are engaging in, and once again, huge engagement process between now and the time that it is implemented, right from community into our schools. Oops. What can you expect? The goals were where students will take part in meaningful conversations that help them develop responsibility for engaging deeply with their learning. And parents and caregivers are well informed, involved in decisions and dialogue about their child's learning, and understand ways to further support that learning. Some of the things that we are going to explore is the focusing on proficiency. From kindergarten to grade 9, proficiency scales will be used. This is a huge change. There was a time when grade 4 to 9 had letter grades. Grade 10 to 12 will have percentages in letter grades. Grade 4 to 9, we will move to a proficiency scale. Why a proficiency scale? Because it tells you where your learner is with that specific skill and what their next steps will be to get to the next level of proficiency. We all know what an A means. It means a child's done their work, they've demonstrated that, but what's their next step? Proficiency scales tell us that. Descriptive feedback. Have a good summer isn't descriptive feedback. Descriptive feedback actually tells us where's a strength and what's the next step Learning is lifelong. We're all learning every single day. And here's an opportunity for us to share that learning. The importance of self-reflection on core competencies and goal setting. Currently, students do a core competency self-assessment once a year. The new reporting order says 3 times a year. And I think what's really fantastic as we look to the graduation program is in the grade 10, 11, and 12 years, parents will receive an update on where their learner is in the graduation program. So they know what courses they have, what credits they need, whether they're on track. And these are some things we're looking forward to. And again, will be done collaboratively with students, parents, staff. Everybody's voices matter. And looking ahead to next month, kindergarten registration is a really big event in school districts across the province. This is where we begin projecting our enrollments. Enrollment projections need to be sent to the Ministry of Education this month, as that determines our funding and our budget announcements for the spring for the next school year. It is Pink Shirt Day in February. And we've engaged in a district-wide pink shirt design contest, and that information is sitting in schools. We've worked with a supplier who is going to print those shirts with a student's logo, and then our student design. And then finally, it's the online transfer process will begin as well for those families wishing to make a school change following appropriate policies. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Cindy. Do we have any questions? Just this one.
I just have one question. As the superintendent or other senior administrators participated in reviewing and signing off on students passing or completing coursework?
As the Office of the Superintendent, we never sign off. That is not work we do.
Any other questions? Betty, okay, just one moment.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to comment on so much of the good news with some of the data. And I just, looking back, say 2 or 3 years and the progress, I'm just glad to be a trustee to see that kind of data. Thank you.
Any other comments for Cindy today? Okay. Thank you, Cindy. We'll move on to trustee reports now. 13.1, we'll start with Erica.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you, Ms. Heitman, for sharing your energy and learning. I feel a new breath right now, so that's nice. As the board is aware, the Northern Interior Branch gathered in late January to determine priorities for upcoming provincial council meetings. The next provincial council meeting will be February 24th and 25th, which I will be attending on our behalf, and trustees can look for information as to what to expect is coming to the table in the next couple of weeks. And just a heads up, as we move towards trustee reports at the end of the meeting, I have something very special and meaningful to myself that I'd like to share with you all.
Thank you, Erica. Any questions for Erica? Hearing none, we'll move on to 13.2, and I'll pass it on to Betty.
Thank you, Chair. I had the opportunity just last weekend to attend the BCPC, which stands for the BC Public Schools Employers Association meeting in Vancouver. I attended with our Secretary Treasurer and our Director of Human Resources. It was so well attended, and it was the first in-person meeting in 2 years, and it just felt so normal. So highlights were we had greetings from our partner groups and ministry, presentations of financial audit for the 23-24 budget. The budget of $9,872,000 was approved. We had the appointment of the auditors that was approved, various presentations on conflict of interest, case law update, the role of the BCPC rep, candidate speeches to fill the 2 vacant positions, one of which I told you at the beginning in District News. And the other candidate that was successful was Donna Sargent, who is from Richmond and is now on the Metro branch. Then we had candidate elections, Donna, and support staff and teacher bargaining updates, exempt compensation update, labor relation update, and all in all, it was a great AGM, and I was glad to attend on the board's behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Any questions for Betty? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to the District Parent Advisory Council. So I'll pass it on to Corey.
I had the pleasure of attending last district PAC meeting. The focus was on mental health resources, both at our local level and through the district. And I would encourage anybody to talk to your local PAC about that. There's also have information on their Facebook page. And one of the main things highlighted was Open Parachute, which is a great program through the district that's open for staff, students, and families and everybody. It's accessible for everybody. So that was really good to hear about all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Do we have any questions for Corey? Okay, and hearing none, we'll move on to the Indigenous Education Leadership Table. I'll pass it over to Craig. Sorry, we will do Jillian. I'm sorry. Go ahead. District Student Advisory Council.
Due to a scheduling conflict, I actually wasn't in attendance at the last meeting, but I'm looking forward to Monday's meeting.
Thank you, Jillian. Now we'll move on to Craig.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. There is no report at this time from the IELT, but I do want to let you know our next meeting is on Wednesday, February 8th.
Thank you. We'll move on to the trustee activity reports now. Do the trustees want to speak on their activity reports? Not at this time? Yes, yes. And I'll pass it over to Erica now.
Okay, thank you. So before I start this, I actually wrote it down because this is so incredibly meaningful to me. And I believe so much in this school district. So these are difficult words sometimes, but sometimes that's when it matters the most. So I wrote it down knowing that I would get emotional. Thank you. Our guiding principles as a board acknowledge that we respect diversity and support the involvement of families and communities we serve. While we did receive valuable feedback regarding content and accuracy of statements made by stakeholders and rights holders in recent public process, I think it remains necessary we meet our community partner groups where they're at and try to move forward together from there. I think it is our duty to hear our partner and rights holder groups with an understanding of nuance, empathy, and compassion. To be more specific, we've received feedback regarding 2 public statements made during previous meetings by individual and partner rights holder groups. But in this all, I have hope. I have hope that we can get to a place where we will not other those who don't think like us or see things the way that we do, where we can truly celebrate safety and inclusion for all. But we can only do this work together. We listen, we learn, and we keep moving forward together. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Is there any comments? So we'll move on to our correspondence, and that is in the back of our agenda on page 27. We have the letter of response dated December 12th, 2022 from the Minister of Education and the Child Care regarding Mackenzie Elementary School. And then 14.2, the letter of support dated December 12th, 2022 for the Claytley Tene First Nation application to the First Peoples Cultural Council on page 28. Are there any questions pertaining to the correspondence? Hearing none. All right, 15, we're at the end. Call to close the meeting at 5:03. So a motion, please. No one wants to go home? Oh, Jillian, good. No seconder, please. Thank you. All in favor? Everyone have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Hey, Bob.
Hi, Bob.